Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, how you folks doing? Welcome to the Con and Bob podcast. We are back here after a little bit of a hiatus, partly on me, partly because, you know, the world's a crazy place. A lot of smells out there. I don't know. Let me start that again. That was the worst.
I like it. I think that we should leave it.
Should leave it?
I think that this is, yeah.
This is what we're doing. This is how we're starting the podcast. Oh my God.
This is the start.
This is the
Con
start.
and Bob podcast.
Okay.
I'm Bob.
I'm Con. You're going to have to take it away there because I need a minute to get back into the swing of things. That was one of the worst openings I've ever done in my life. Oh.
Yeah, it's been a busy couple weeks. You know, we can't always. It's tough not being like around each other all the time because if we were together, it's easy. But then just having to do it this way, you get busy with other things. I get busy with stuff, and finding the time is sometimes difficult. And sometimes it's like, oh, I can do it,
and then we
got to make sure that we're done by this time. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we apologize for everyone who's wanting a weekly episode. Sometimes that's not the case.
You know what you could do if you want a weekly episode? You could support us on Patreon and get Bob a job with Conman. How about that? Go over there to Patreon.
Work.
Little cheap plug at the start of the podcast. But let's get right into the things right here today. Wrestling is what we're here to talk about.
Let's get into all the smells.
And all the smells. Get your sniffers ready. So let's talk about NXT TakeOver 25 before we really jump into the show, because we were just briefly talking about it, and I asked you, what did you think? Was AEW Double or Nothing better, or was TakeOver 25 better? What do you think?
I still think that Double or Nothing was better. I think it's like significance obviously factors in. I don't think there was a match on the TakeOver card that was better than Cody versus Dustin.
I agree with you on that.
But I think that the card, as NXT always does, was very good. I think that the tag team Fatal 4-Way match was really good. I thought that they did a lot of cool things with that. I thought that the women's match, like Baszler versus Shirai, was good.
Man, Io Shirai looked like a star, didn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think it was like show stealing, but I thought it was good. Mm-hmm. I am always, you know me, I'm a Shayna Baszler guy. I want her to hold it forever, just because she keeps murdering people.
It's really fun to watch. Like, she is something else, and it makes me wonder, like, do they want to call her up at any point, or do you just keep this mythological run that she's going through in the NXT Women's Division, like? Because part of me wonders, if you keep her down there for, say, another year with that championship, what does that mean when she gets called up? Like, how big of a star is she going to be if she holds on to that thing for a while?
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to be really interesting.
It just lets her continue to get better.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
It just continues to let her to be better on the mic, and also it allows the other two, which we always
Marina
forget
Shafir and Jessamine Duke.
Shafir and... Yeah, Duke and Shafir, it allows them to excel and grow, because I think as soon as Baszler's gone up, they don't get to go up with her, which in turn maybe can hurt.
Oh, yeah, it can hurt them. That's for sure. Bless you.
Yeah, I think it can hurt them because I don't think that they should go up, at least. I think they're a little too raw. We've seen raw people come up, like the Iconics, for instance, but their character work is so good. Mm-hmm. But their character work is so good, right? So I think that I just realized I don't have my light on.
Oh, Bob. So professional.
Might be a little too bright, but that's fine.
Who cares? It's like your future, right? Bright as your future.
And I think like the few very raw in-ring performers that we've seen come up in recent years excel on the mic and in other aspects, so they can still get over. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're raw on the mic and you're relying on someone else on the mic and you're very raw in the ring, you can't. I don't think it's quite that time. So I think that the longer Baszler's down, one, I think like she can go down as the most dominant women's wrestler in NXT history at this point.
And I mean, that's talking a lot, right? When you have people like Asuka,
especially
who's
because
been
of
down
Asuka.
there. Yeah. And that's really good company to be in.
Exactly. It's the same kind of company. Like, I think it's huge, and it also you risk crowding the division, which we talk about all the time. You risk crowding the division in the aspect of, like, you bring up the super hot, like, talent in a superstar from NXT, and all of a sudden you need to find somewhere to put them, but they don't deserve to be at the top of the card yet because they're new to the main roster. But then if you don't push them to the top, then all of a sudden they lose a little bit of steam. And if you do push them to the top, you don't want them overthrowing your top talent on the main roster, because those are who sell merchandise. Those are who bring in fans. So now all of a sudden you're in this weird limbo, kind of.
It is a weird limbo, because we have noticed this. Well, NXT produces a playground to get them over with the fans beforehand. What it actually can do is it can hinder the performer moving forward, because fans latch on to how their character may be down in NXT, or how they deliver matches, or what their finishing moves are, or what their names are, right? Viking Raiders, War Raiders, whatever, right? Fans get attached to them down in NXT, and when it changes coming up to the main roster, it could actually be a hindrance to them, because fans are so familiar with them. They don't get introduced to a larger audience as this brand new character, and when they do get introduced as a new character, fans reject them because it's different than what was in NXT. So there is a bit of a problem, isn't there?
Yeah, sometimes, for sure.
But not with everyone, obviously. The big stars obviously can push through. Yeah.
But yeah, TakeOver 25, like, that was a good match. The Riddle strong match was solid. I liked the Gargano Cole match. You and I were just talking, and you mentioned how you didn't like it as much as the first one.
Yeah, I thought the first one was definitely a better match out of the two of them. I thought the first one was a little bit more not reality based, but you could believe the match as it was going on a little bit easier. I found that sometimes in the Cole Gargano 2 match, I was taken out of it because things just did not seem realistic enough. The biggest part for me was I think it was a Frankensteiner delivered by Johnny Gargano. Adam Cole bounced right back up off the ropes and delivered the last shot. Great looking sequence, but you have just taken like 20 super kicks, and now you've been planted straight on your head, and you can bounce up, run off the ropes, and deliver a last shot, driving your knee full force and knocking the opponent out. It took me out at a few times, but regardless, the match was still very entertaining. I mean, I'm just nitpicking, right? But I enjoyed the first one better.
I liked a lot of storytelling moments of the second one, like, not necessarily storytelling moments, but more so like things that just the little things that they did. Like, I liked when it seemed like Cole was calling out the rest of Undisputed Era, so it distracted, and it was like, oh, okay, that's cool, that's different, that's interesting. And then I liked the aspect of Cole going for the Gargano escape at one point, right? The aspect of Johnny hitting the last shot at one point. Like, stuff like that was all really cool and interesting. I'm like, okay, yeah, I like that. That's fun. That's fun wrestling. And the match was good, and the storytelling, obviously, the outcome, Adam Cole winning,
was
great.
the right.
I love it.
That was the right one.
Especially, I liked that they didn't have the other Undisputed Era members win earlier in the night. They had Roddy lose to Riddle, and they had O'Reilly and Fish not win the ladder match. Also, Street Profits,
baby.
Your guys.
Oh, I loved it, man. Mark, like, when he leaped onto the ladder, oh my God. Like, and the look on the face, I think it was Wesley Blake. By the way, also massive shout out to Wesley Blake. He performed so well in that ladder match. The bumps that he took, all the teams did. Yeah, but Kyle O'Reilly took some
dangerous looking moments. I was like, oh God.
Kyle O'Reilly, did you see the gash that was on his back? Like, the hole he literally had in his back. Oh man, it was like it was so nasty.
I legitimately thought at one point that O'Reilly and Fish, they teased it so well because they made me want to see it, because I've never seen it before. At least I can't think of a time that I've seen it, where they were holding the ladder in the ring and they kept looking back as if they were going to run off the ropes and suicide dive through with the ladder in their hands.
God.
And they kept kind of teasing it as if they were going to go, and then someone else interrupted them. And then someone hopped up on the apron there, so they hit them. And then someone was in the ring on the other side, so they hit them. And then someone jumped off and drop kicked the ladder to hurt both of them. And I was like, that move, honestly, as much as I would have liked to see it, is so dangerous.
It's, and
it's so dangerous for anyone to do.
And like, I know what they're probably thinking. Like, if we do this on this show and we do it right, it's gonna last forever. But what are the odds you do it 100% right? It's It's like Shane McMahon jumping off the top of Hell in a Cell and Undertaker, Kevin Owens having to move out of the way at the last second with the help of Sami Zayn. Like when that elbow came down and just missed, there was such little room for error.
Yeah.
And the same thing would be for a ladder spot like that. But
it was crazy. Yeah. And then obviously the match that I have not talked about, which is my match of the week. And we're getting that out of the way real quick.
All right.
And you know what? I'll save my MVP for someone else. For someone else. But my match of the week, and shout out, honorable mention to Velveteen Dream and Tyler Breeze as honorable mentions for MVP, because they are both phenomenal. I loved the little story, the little like promo packages put together for this. I loved the match. I thought it was a fantastic match. And Velveteen won. So he's still your North American champion. And there was, again, that Velveteen is just the perfect tweener, where after the match, there's that little sign of respect between him and Tyler Breeze, and he accepts it and shows a little bit of respect by accepting it. But at the same time, he does it in a dickish manner. So you're like, I love him and I hate him, and he can go either way. He can be a heel or a face. No matter who you put him against, he's the other, and he does it better than most.
I love that that's his character, is he can literally be put in there against anybody and play the opposite part that he needs. Like, his character has such a bright future here in WWE for that simple reason, because he can be put into any feud. He literally can, and his gimmick is so outlandish that it makes the feud just bigger. I don't know how else to word it. His matches just feel big at this point. They really do. And I kind of like the little callback. It wasn't really directly a callback, but how Aleister Black, remember when he said his name for the first time in Velveteen Dream's match, right? That was the end of the match. Aleister Black won. Dream got his little pop by getting the name said by Black. Well, in a way, Tyler Breeze getting his selfie with Velveteen Dream is that pop for Tyler Breeze. You know, he gets that selfie at the end of the match, and that's going to be a thing that I hope he continues to use in NXT, because he's down there for the foreseeable future right now. And
is he?
Yeah. He made a lateral move to NXT, at least that's what he called it, right? A lateral move. Some people saying got sent down. He's calling it.
Well, this
is
exactly what we've been talking about. We want to see this, where guys that maybe don't have as much going up on the main roster and are losing steam, instead of losing steam and like essentially hurting their character, move them down.
Exactly.
Or
lateral.
I love NXT.
I just love that little saying, though. It's a lateral movement, and which it truly is, right? If you're not being used on the main roster, it's a lateral movement to NXT. Fans are gonna lose their shit if you show up in NXT as a WWE superstar. It is exciting, you know. They're not supposed to be there, so why are they there? Oh, that's cool. That's fun.
And I like it because I was gonna say we got to see a little bit of a different character from Breeze. Where he's not, like, he's still Tyler Breeze, like Prince Pretty, but there's this little bit of aggression to it, like the black attire. I love the black attire. The little bit of aggression, the dedication to the championship that he wanted, stuff like that. I was like, oh, like, this is the serious wrestler that is Tyler Breeze that WWE is missing out on. He's not all selfies and pretty modeling. He's not all goofy, funny, dumb, good-looking guy things. I'm like, he's a fucking fighter.
Yeah, seriously. He's a great wrestler. Like, he's got to be. I want to say this, that Tyler Breeze has got to be one of the best sellers WWE has on their roster. The way that he just sells the moves, and he makes every move look so good. I mean, Velveteen Dream also made that Unprettier look amazing.
Yes.
But like,
that was amazing. He like went.
Yeah, the way that he connects though every time with his opponents, it just seems so crisp. It seems like he's always causing damage. His supermodel kick is a thing of beauty, like one of the best super kicks in the WWE. It's just, I think Tyler Breeze has a bright future down in NXT. Again, obviously, he's going to play like the veteran role down there, in which I think, they could use. And I honestly wouldn't mind seeing, Tyler Breeze be put in like a tag team with somebody. Maybe you want to get Kona Reeves over a little bit bigger. The Finest and Prince Pretty together. Maybe. I don't know.
The other thing, the one downside of that match that I will say is the finish. Tyler could have just rolled in and rolled back out to break the count.
Yeah.
But I get it in the aspect of like it was a close like 9 and then he rolled in. Maybe he didn't think he had enough time to roll back out.
Yeah.
Whatever. So he just hopped up and was like, no. But yeah, like it's like you could have just rolled out. Everyone knows the rules.
I remember thinking the exact same thing when I was watching it. I'm just like,
why are you yelling
Tyler,
at the ref? Just get out of the ring.
Tyler, did you forget something there, man?
I'm like, just get out of the ring. Oh. But I understood it after in the aspect of, that's how they wanted to lead to the finish.
Yeah.
Because then he hit the Death Valley Driver and
then the Purple Rain. The Purple Rainmaker. By the way, that name. The Purple Rainmaker. Yeah.
So I love the match though, and I love seeing Tyler like that because you and I both know, and many fans know how good he truly is. Same with Dango, like how good Fandango is, and I hope that we get to see something a little bit more serious when Dango comes back, and hopefully for the foreseeable future, Tyler Breeze can be more serious. But you also know that these types of guys can go in the ring, they can be more serious when it comes down to it, but they have a comedic factor where they can get over.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yep.
So I liked it. Double or Nothing I still think was better. I think it just had more importance at that time, and there was overall probably better matches. Not to say that the matches were bad on TakeOver at all.
Yeah, I agree with you to that. I think it's a tough comparison, right? But I think it's the best comparison that we actually have out there. The war, as much as we want to say can be between WWE and AEW, it's truly a war between NXT and AEW at this point, right? That's closer to the fan base and who they're going to be competing for, and who's going to say like which product was better, the NXT crowd or the AEW crowd. So it was exciting for both of them for sure.
Also, because the actual like level of the matches, you and I say it all the time. NXT matches are usually and cards are generally way better than the WWE pay-per-view cards end up being every weekend, every pay-per-view weekend when there is a takeover. So it's going to be more of a what was better, TakeOver or AEW?
Yes,
because takeovers just got better cards than WWE generally speaking at this time.
Yeah, and part of that, is going to have to attribute to the fact that there's only like 5 slots on the TakeOver card, and so the 5 most hyped up matches get put on that card, and they get given all the time in the world to steal the show. Like, I'm pretty sure if WWE modeled that same product, TV would be so much better now, because all those castaway matches built for Stomping Ground, let's say, would be then shown on Monday Night Raw. We would get more high-octane matches on Monday Night Raw and make your TV product better. And then when the time the pay-per-view came around, everybody would be like, oh yeah, like these are the matches we want to see. These have been the matches they've been building up to for like a couple months now. We finally get to see this. I think that's where the issue lies there. And like obviously TakeOver having only a few pay-per-views a year helps with that as well.
Yeah.
But what do you say?
Like some stuff that certain things from this week that WWE's main roster did, but we'll get into that as it comes up.
As I was about to say, what do you say we start covering Monday Night Raw and Tuesday Night SmackDown here? Because Well, we just praised the crap out of NXT TakeOver 25 and a little bit of All Elite's Double or Nothing. Monday Night Raw was not good. I didn't enjoy it overall. I thought the show was rough. It was better than the previous weeks, but I thought it was still a rough show.
Yeah, I thought there was moments that I was like, okay. But yeah, like from, I don't even know, from
okay, let me take it away
arm
there.
wrestling match.
Yeah, I was going to say the arm wrestling thing. Like, that's the first one where we can start right there. What's that doing on TV? That does not belong there. I forget who it was. Somebody sent me over Twitter. It was like, with the quote, nobody wants to see arm wrestling, and it's sitting there at 2.3 million views on YouTube or whatever. But I'm like, yeah, okay, that's good for social media stuff, sure, and I understand maybe why you want to do that. But let's face facts here. Nobody wanted to sit through that thing live. Not a single person who was in the arena was like, yeah, this is what I want to see. I really want to see this thing here tonight. Nobody was hyped up for this arm wrestling thing. No extra people were tuning into it live. No. So what is the purpose of it? There's none.
That seems like the type of thing that WWE should like essentially do shoots of on their social media. Like, do it on your YouTube. Do like a little goofy, have Xavier Woods run it, right? Like an up, down, down-esque type thing. Like, that seems like something that he would do on that, right? Like, just like fun, like legitimate, like, oh, you want to see, like, have an arm wrestling series on YouTube.
Yeah.
Where it's like, literally, where like Drake Maverick is arm wrestling Braun Strowman. And you're like, oh, he's going to get murdered. But then the next week it's like actual comparative people. Do it like Dash and Dawson arm wrestle each other. Like, it's fun. It's
if you wanted to do something like that, by all means, right, on social media, because that's where social media is perfect for the WWE. Like, when we're sitting there watching the 3-hour shows, we want to see the legitimate contests. We want to see the athletic people do their stuff in the ring, right? That's what we want to watch.
Or legitimate promos.
To build to matches.
Rivalry.
Yeah. we want pro wrestling. And I get it, pro wrestling is the entertainment side, and you got to look at all forms of entertainment. But you got to be so careful when you go to the outside the box. I mean, we've seen arm wrestling contests in the past on WWE. It's not new, but it's also never been good.
No, they're always
the same thing. They're the same thing. You know, I think it Mark Henry and Big Show had one at one point. I can't remember. It was two big men. One person was against Mark Henry for sure. And it's just like, yeah, I get it. They're strong people. Okay, what else? I can literally look at them and see they're strong. I don't need to see them wrestle each other's arms down to the ground when they're very clearly going to punch each other after the fact.
And that's not to say that all of these types of segments, like one of my favorite segments from when I was younger was the Master Lock Challenge.
That's true.
Such a fun segment, but it's a repeating segment, and it's a thing that builds potentially to a rivalry. It actually adds to it in that aspect, and it's just a fun segment that's reoccurring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, whereas with an arm wrestling challenge, like the rivalry between Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman's already been introduced. It's already started.
Ice cold. It's ice cold.
What is an arm wrestling match going to build more to it? It's like nothing. Mm-hmm. It's already not a great match. The only reason it's happening is because you're going to Saudi Arabia is Super Showdown this weekend, right?
Yes.
And it's like you're going to Saudi Arabia and you want two of your biggest names on the card. And you're like, well, one's a face, one's a heel. Let's just put them up against each other. And you introduced it weeks ago before your last pay-per-view. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, now you have to commit to that no matter what. Mm-hmm. And now you have to build to it after you've announced it, not the other way around. And they don't do as well of a job building to something that they've already announced in certain situations. I think that the Randy Orton Triple H build has been okay.
It's been okay. Yeah, it is.
I think it's been okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a Legends match, right? The Undertaker Goldberg match has been built okay, but it is what it is. It's a Legends match. Mm-hmm. Those matches are fine because they're Legends matches. Whereas a match between Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley, two current elite superstars, two of your top tier guys that are like right on the cusp of potentially being world champion type material, are like on the card just because you want them on the card, which is fine, but build to it in a proper way, right?
I agree.
The Dolph Ziggler Kofi Kingston match is a great example of one that was not introduced for Super Showdown, and then they built to it and then introduced it.
Yes,
they built to it in one segment build. All it took for us to be like, okay, I'm about this, because it's exciting. It's someone coming back. It's someone. It gives your WWE champion.
It's very interesting also because like it's a fresh feel to it, right? It's got that fresh feel, even though when we got all that promo segment saying like, you know, you beat me for this title, I think it was the US title, you beat me for the IC title, like knowing they already have history, but it's been so long since we've seen them, and we've also never seen them at the main event level, which makes it just a very, very intriguing matchup for Dolph Ziggler
for sure.
Kofi
They
Kingston.
very well, for the Braun Strowman Bobby Lashley match, literally they could have just had Bobby Lashley be the one who screwed over Braun Strowman against Sami Zayn in that match, and then all of a sudden Braun Strowman's no longer concerned about the Money in the Bank. He's now like, I want to like give Lashley these hands or whatever the fuck. Right? Like
that was the worst Neanderthal I've ever heard.
Lashley screwed him out of his opportunity, and maybe Lashley had that because he felt that he was getting overlooked, and he's like, what, you deserve to be in this match because you're a big guy, like I deserve to be in it. So now you have a legitimate one segment build to it where, okay, yeah, this is a reason why they should have a match. But no, they're just like, they're gonna have a match, and then all of a sudden you have to build to it through two guys that are not great at promos. One yells his name and like little fucking taglines or whatever you want to call them. And the other one, catchphrases. And the other one was much better off with Lio Rush, which
oh my
Lio?
God. That's another thing that bugs me with WWE TV is just not, you know, you're writing Lio off TV, right? But then you kind of tease that him and Bobby were having issues, and then all of a sudden Bobby got partnered with Shane McMahon for a minute there, and then that got undone, and it's just been really, really weird. I just wish WWE, if you planned on taking Lio Rush off TV, why not get the absolute most heat possible on it and have Bobby Lashley take him out, have him injured, have Lio Rush have to be stretchered off. I know fans don't care about Lio, but that's how you get fan support for characters. You got to make moments happen for those characters to develop any fan support with the fans. You have to.
Well, I think if they did that, Lio could have been built up as a babyface
and jumped right into the 205 Live cruiserweight division. If you like, you know, I know he's already been over there a little bit, but I mean, Tony Nese could use a challenger. Why wasn't Lio Rush?
Lio would put on a great match.
Yeah,
like, I don't know. Speaking of teaming with Shane McMahon, it's just like every week I don't know who it is, because one week it's Elias and B Team, and then one week it's Bobby Lashley, and then one week it's Drew McIntyre now, and
then now the Revival's put
now
with
it's
them.
the Revival, and I'm like, I get it, he's the boss, but have committed people. Like, stick with what you've got. If it was going to be B Team, have it be B Team. If it was going to be Revival, have it be Revival. But now it's like, I think that this is the right three, Drew McIntyre and Revival.
I want to say I agree with you on that. Revival's stock is certainly helped by being put with McIntyre and McMahon. I think the Revival, unfortunately, are going to be put a little too close to being the henchmen of this group, though, who get beat up by Roman Reigns. As we obviously saw on SmackDown, they got taken. One question I got for everybody in the WWE. When you hear Roman Reigns' music play, why do you walk straight up the ramp and not do anything? Not have your fists up as he comes running down to deliver a Superman punch? How many times has that happened?
Just duck it.
Just
you know it's coming. Just duck.
Or just, hey, Roman, Roman, hi, I see you're coming, but I'm just going to not run at you. I'm just going to stay right here. You're going to run at me. Oh, I see you coming, and sidestep. Like, it's just, it's comical every time. Like, it's not to the point where I'm going to nitpick it and I'm going to be like, oh, this needs to change, because it's comical. It's honestly comical.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, though, about that is on SmackDown, during that segment when Revival was coming out with Shane, the commentary team did make reference to and answered one of our questions about this wild card rule, that a tag team does represent one wild card.
Hey, how many weeks did that take?
Only like 4 or 5.
Oh my God.
They did reference it. Here's the Revival taking up one wild card spot.
All right.
So it does represent that. So that's good to know. Things that just like fans would like to know.
Yeah.
Maybe not all fans, but some of us want to know, because we're paying attention to those things. It's continuity, right?
Exactly.
Especially people like you or I, broadcast experience, where all of a sudden we're like, oh, I noticed that in a movie or a show or a commercial even, right?
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that in my wrestling.
Oh, I notice it big
your
time.
Continuity's good.
Yep.
And when it's not, I'm going to point it out, because if people are going to point out a Starbucks cup in a Game of Thrones episode, I'm going to point out stupid shit in WWE.
Yep, that's the best way to look at it there. And I mean, like, yeah, a lot of the times let's say us online fans, will get upset at WWE because it is easy to get upset at, because it is made up, it is a weekly show sort of thing, and it's entirely scripted. So yes, it's very easy to get upset at little details. But you're right. Continuity is something that has to be looked at. Like, you've got a continuity, what's it called again? A continuity advisor or continuity, what's the person that watches over? So I forget the actual term for it. But there's jobs out there with their sole purpose to make sure that this scene lines up continuity, or I don't know the actual term for it, but lines up perfectly with the next scene, and the continuity is there. And you like from clothes,
and whether it's story based or physical things like that, it needs to stay proper.
Needs to be monitored. It needs to be a thing that you're watching. And I mean, if you got people, say, like Vince McMahon up there, who are making all these booking decisions, it's entirely possible that, that guy, he's older, and let's say maybe his memory isn't as strong as it used to be a few years ago or 10 years ago, right? And maybe, just maybe, Vince McMahon's sitting in his office and he has forgotten of a mid-card story written by somebody else, at the middle of the card. And that continuity, he doesn't know about, or he didn't really think about it. That's why you need an actual advisor to sit there and look over the stories and say on a week-to-week basis, hey, this right here in big circles does not make sense with last week. And if you just do that, if you just make your stories make a little bit more sense, we're not going to have too much to complain about. No. At the end of the day, wrestling fans like good stories, so if you give us good stories, we'll be okay.
Speaking of stories and Vince McMahon, did you listen to the Talk is Jericho with Moxley?
I did. Oh.
We won't get into it, but it was like, I feel for
everyone. I feel for everyone in WWE. That's a tough place to work. It's
it's so annoying.
If you guys haven't heard, basically, John Moxley, Dean Ambrose did a Talk is Jericho podcast, and it was a tell-all podcast. And I want to say that his podcast carries more weight than CM Punk's did at the time. I would say like those two, the Colt Cabana podcast with CM Punk and Dean Ambrose with Talk is Jericho, are probably two of the most hyped up podcasts that have been around in wrestling in a long, long, long time.
Yep.
I would say that CM Punk's, while he brought up a lot of the stuff that Dean Ambrose brought up inside of WWE, it did not carry the same weight because the way that CM Punk went out. He went out on bad terms, right? There was the lawsuit. He was very, very bitter towards WWE. Dean Ambrose finished out his contract and basically gave his all to WWE and still couldn't get anywhere with the company. And
he had said in it that he basically kept giving it WWE the benefit of the doubt and was like pushing it and being like, almost right up to the very end, like, you know, maybe I'll give him one more shot. Like, if this happens, if I go in and Vince lets me have this creative freedom, and then he didn't, and he's like, I can't, I'm done. And then the aspect of, and he even made it sound like just exactly how you or I would think it would go down, like where Vince makes it seem like he's being respectful about stuff, but really it seems like he's trying to bury him, which you and I were talking about. Like, as soon as that news broke, we're like, oh God, it seems like they're literally trying to bury and break, like,
break
John
him, yeah.
Moxley,
Like we
Dean Ambrose.
said when he lost to EC3 that very first week that, you know, this isn't looking good for Dean. And then, yeah, he got the win the following week, but it's just a mess. It was just a mess.
And then with the Nia stuff, and he said on the pod, he's like, Nia's one of my dear friends. She's a great worker. I love working with her. I have no problem doing that. He's like, but it's the way that they wanted me to do it was not like, it was just like, if it was leading to an actual some sort of thing, fine, that's a story. He's like, but no, they were just doing it to
just
literally
just to hurt him,
embarrass me, like to hurt him. And then the aspect he even mentions, he's like, I thought they were just going to be like, you know, we'll just keep him off TV, he's done. And then he's like, no, they physically were trying to do it. That's why week after week he had those 3 back-to-back matches with Drew that were situational type matches, right? Like, where it was like, oh, last man standing, a false count anywhere, a hardcore match, all those things. And it's like, fuck, man, like Triple H needs to take over. Like, he needs to take over, and I hope it's sooner rather than later.
And here's also the not the unfortunate thing, but I think that's something that needs to be thought about, is that the idea of one man being the guy who has the power to say yes or no to every story is not good, because that means you're not targeting an audience filled of like 20,000 people with different ideas and different, you know, emotions and likes different superstars, come from different points of life. You are looking at it through the eyes of a billionaire who thinks kid jokes and testicle jokes are the funniest thing in the world. That
just makes me, you're basically summing up government as well. Having one man country is absurd anywhere.
That's so true.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, Vince is the, like, you know, if you want to talk about WWE being a country, he's the dictator of the country. And everything he says goes. And at this point where the WWE has this many fans, not just a small amount of fans anymore with like a cult-like following, it is mainstream as it gets. You have that many fans, you can't just keep going through a guy who's 70-something years old who is a little out of touch with the way that everything works these days and age. I mean, imagine your grandpa sitting there booking WWE. That would not go over well. Like,
no.
So yeah, that is the issue. I think, yeah, you're right. Triple H needs to take over.
Yeah.
Speaking
of Triple H, what'd you think of the promo with Randy?
I thought it was good. I mean, anytime that those guys step inside the ring, it just feels like a different atmosphere, right? Triple H and Randy Orton, they command that ring anytime that they're in it, and their promo ability with each other just felt so natural. Because yes, they played on the fact that they have this much history, and they're going out there, they're going to try to say a tagline to sell the match or whatever, and they're just like, no, we're not having any of this. As Triple H leaves, he says his one-line or whatever, but Randy Orton jumping right in there and basically dropping the testicle line about how he keeps them in Stephanie's purse was, all right, the nice little easy pop for the crowd. And then Triple H firing back, okay, yeah, they're good on the microphone. You just see how natural they are.
Yeah, that was like again, it's just a fun little build where it's like, listen, like, this is the match, this is what's happening, and don't think that you're going to put me down. Like, the aspect of Triple H saying, like, there's been many people trying to put me out, and, like, you're not going to be it, kid. And then the aspect of Randy being like, I've ended a lot of legends.
I'm going to end you.
Don't mind adding another notch to my belt.
And I just like the way Orton was presented in this segment. You know, it's been a little bit since Orton has been presented as the legend that he is. You know, like he's there and he's RKOing people. But over the past year, Randy Orton is kind of falling down from that Legends feel that he had, because he was put on the Blue brand to be there and to be the legend of that brand. Mm-hmm. And no doubt about that. And to put on great matches with everybody, because he's still one of the best in-ring workers in the world.
And it was him and John on the Blue brand to bring that legend feel. And then John left.
Yep. And Orton has kind of... And unfortunately for Orton is that he has been around for so long. And he is so good at what he does that we sometimes take advantage of having him on our roster, and we forget about him. We keep him in the back of our minds. And I mean, WWE's done the exact same thing over the past year. So it's nice to see him presented in this limelight again, going up against Triple H, somebody who he has the longest history with out of anybody in the company. Maybe John Cena he has a little bit more with. But yeah, it's a good match. I think it's a match that will help sell tickets at Super ShowDown. It will definitely help sell people to watch the show here in America. But yeah, it was good. It was fine.
And it'll help sell the show over there too, because it's two legendary guys. That's why they bring guys like Undertaker and Goldberg back, because over there, a lot of what they'll have is internet based, right? Mm-hmm. And they might not watch the weekly product.
No, definitely.
As much, at least, right? So they'll know a lot. Like, oh, I remember Taker from this and Goldberg from this and blah, blah, and all these like big names draws, right?
Yeah.
That's why you want things like that.
It'd be no different than saying, like, say for the past 50 years or ever since WWE kind of started, Canada didn't get any shows, right? There was no shows in Canada, none of them whatsoever. And then all of a sudden they sign this big 10-year deal with Canada and they start going there for live shows. Who are you going to want to see? You're going to want to see the people from the Attitude Era. You're going to want to see the biggest names possible, and then you're going to want to see a sprinkle few of the current crop of superstars. Yeah, that's what you're going to want to see. It's no different for Saudi Arabia shows.
Championship matches, and you're going to want to see the big name draws.
Exactly. So it's no different for those Saudi Arabia shows. But I will say this much: it kind of feels a little on the cheap side, a little bit towards the fans, just because these are matches that we could have had. We could have had these matches, and now we are getting them in their prime, but not even just because it's in their prime. We could have had these matches for a WrestleMania match, and you're giving it away to Saudi Arabian money. Yeah. And it's very, very dirty. It's got this gross feel to it, this whole pay-per-view. And I mean, we've said in the past that WWE going to Saudi Arabia, it could be just to try to install change. You can't make change unless you're there, right? But again, it has that slimy feel to it. The fact that it's being positioned as bigger than WrestleMania, or equal or bigger than WrestleMania, something like that. That's the tagline.
They said that. That's the tag on it.
And it's just
equal or even bigger or something like that. Yeah.
And I'm like, you can't even make a straightforward tagline. It's just as big as WrestleMania, or maybe bigger.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, no. Like, it's not bigger.
Yeah, so it's little things like that that's kind of surrounded the show, and it's taken the fans' idea of like what these great matches that are going to be at the show, and it's kind of put a slimy feel to all of them.
Yeah, we've said it before, and we'll say it again. Shows like Super ShowDown and the Greatest Royal Rumble or whatever the hell all those other ones.
Yeah, Crown Jewel.
The one that they did, Crown Jewel, and the one that they did in Australia, as whatever. As great as cool, you're expanding your fan base, all that. It's a glorified house show. Mm-hmm. It is a glorified house show that you televise to an extent. Terrible times, because
I do hate that fact, because now we're mixing what is the house show with actual storyline base. Because let's face it, if Brock Lesnar cashes in this Friday. If he cashes in, I don't think he will. I think he's holding on to that thing for a while. But if he cashes in, all of a sudden that show becomes part of your actual viewing experience. You have to watch that show if you want to know what has happened, or at least feel completely in the loop. And it's a very, very weird thing, because, again, it's not a normal Sunday pay-per-view. It's not going to have every single fan talking about it. It's not going to be that same feel. And if you're positioning it as WrestleMania or bigger, you should at least make that just like a house show and tag that line for Saudi Arabia? Because seriously, us fans, we know that WrestleMania is bigger. We know it is.
And your dominant fan base is North America. No matter what, it's North America. Maybe like the United Kingdom, stuff
to
like
an
that.
extent, yeah.
But that's pretty much your biggest fan base. So if you're going to have that as your biggest fan base, you don't want to have these big moments on shows like that, because if you have 13, 14-year-old kids that are massive fans and stuff like that are at school on Friday, and you have 30, 25, 30, 35, whatever year old adults that are massive fans from North America are at work on Friday at noon, because it's at noon, right?
I believe it starts at 2. 1 p.m. is like the pre-show, and then 2, I think, is the main show.
Okay, so yeah, like if you and I, if this wasn't your job, if you had a traditional job, like I have a traditional job, if I don't book off work, I can't sit down and watch it. I'll have to watch it at a later time, and more than likely it's either through the network or it's illegally.
Yeah.
So it's, you're not really gaining any aspect of that. So why waste a pop like a Brock Lesnar cash in? Now it's going to be teased for sure, because speaking of name draws, there's no bigger name draw in the WWE than Brock Lesnar.
Absolutely.
So of course he's going to be there, but for him to cash in would be a bit baffling, because the majority of your fan base aren't going to be watching. Alive.
And do you really, really want to put even more of a spotlight on the fact that you're going to Saudi Arabia? Like, let's think about it. Say Brock Lesnar does cash in Saudi Arabia. All the news media outlets picking that up. Brock Lesnar becomes new WWE champion in Saudi Arabia. Can you just imagine how much backlash there would be when casual viewers who don't know anything about this, or not even casual viewers of WWE, start learning more and more about WWE's involvement in Saudi Arabia and how they're just taking this money from them? And, well, not saying like they're paying them to be there, obviously, but they're taking that dirty money.
There is still no female matches on the card for Saudi Arabia.
There's not. Last I heard, what was it, Natalia and, I don't want to misspeak here, but I think it's Alexa Bliss have been said that they are traveling to Saudi Arabia. I don't know if that's going to be for any last-minute matches or anything, or if they're going to have like a segment, or, you know, just be there for a promo or something. But if that is the case, then you start seeing a little bit of change.
Which is great.
Which would be great, yes.
But here's my thing is, I don't think Zelina Vega was out with Andrade this week on SmackDown for that little segment. Was she?
Yes, she was.
She? Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't remember seeing her. It just, I was watching it.
It was very quick. Yeah, she was in, I think she was in the entrance, and then we didn't really see her after that. Yeah.
So, like, is she going to be there to
No.
be in Andrade's corner? So now you, all of a sudden, Andrade's not with his usual Zelina Vega.
I mean, Sami Zayn can't be there because the Saudi Arabian government doesn't allow his ethnicity in there. I mean, Syrian, right? They don't allow him.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
So he can't
another
be
thing.
there.
Kevin Owens isn't going as a result. Daniel Bryan said he's not going. Aleister Black's not allowed because of his religious tattoos. Like, you know what I mean? This is like the company that you are trying to wrestle with. When your product is literally meant for the people who don't feel like they fit in with society. Think about that. This is the land of the freaks, right? This is where you go if you're a big 7-foot tall man, or you're a 5-foot nothing, whatever. And if you can wrestle and you can entertain, this is where you can make a living. And then all of a sudden, nah, sorry, we're going over to this other country, and you can't come. No women can come. No, you can't come. Like, what? That's what you're doing, WWE?
I feel for the women, too, in the aspect that, like, the women more so because you're seeing it more so where they're building to stomping ground matches, which is great looking ahead. I like the foreshadowing building, but you're only seeing it with the women, and it's only happening right now because they're not allowed to be at Super Showdown.
Yep.
So you're getting your Lacey Evans versus Becky Lynch, I think, match at stomping ground. At least
it
the way that
it might be a
making it
triple
seem.
threat. It might be a triple threat. They might go triple threat. Yeah.
Could go triple threat maybe, but they're making it build that way, right? Where like that's definitely going to be two of them. Maybe Charlotte's in it as well.
Yep.
You're getting your Alexa Bliss versus
Bayley.
Bayley, which is a nice little build, and I think it's as far as a name draw, I think Alexa Bliss is a great
people are going to have
Bayley.
issues with the fact that she's a Raw superstar competing for the SmackDown Championship when you got people like Ember Moon, Carmella on the roster, right? That's the issue there, but that's nitpicking.
But your flip side is traditionally wrestling is good versus evil, and you're able to go face versus face and heel versus heel. But traditionally speaking, WWE especially commits to their heel versus face, and Alexa Bliss can still play the heel, even though she's potentially shifting on Raw into a face role with Nikki, which I love, and I'm about it. If that leads to her and Nikki being that odd tag team, if you go back and watch the podcast from a couple months ago before the women's tag team championships were introduced, and I recall saying leading into that elimination chamber, you'll remember I said I think Nikki Cross is going to be a great wrestler for the main roster or the women's tag team division. I think that style of character is great to be that odd pairing, right? Like the like Mankind and The Rock or stuff like that, right? Like Goldust had one too.
Goldust Booker T.
Yeah, stuff like that, where it's like one like straight-faced superstar where you're like, oh, this is your Alexa Bliss. She's kind of a mean person. She's like beautiful and like traditionally beautiful and like mean and whatever. She's got attitude and she talks and all this. And then you have Nikki, who's crazy.
Yeah, there you go. That's all you need to do. Yeah.
And you're like, it's just a fun pairing where you can have good interaction between the two. You can have good interaction with opponents because of it. And I think that those are always fun tag teams. And I think that that's going to be a very good if they do that, which I hope they do. I honestly hope that they do, because it could also lead to Alexa just doing something a little bit different and giving her a more important role in certain aspects. But I'm glad to see Alexa's back in the ring. She's at 100%, knock on wood. Hopefully she's doing well. I'm glad to see that she will be fighting for the championship. I still think Bayley's going to win. But
I think she should,
It just leads to Alexa being more invested and maybe she's Nikki's.
Wow, you're cutting it out. There we go.
Yeah, I know, it just tripped out.
We good
maybe
now.
Her and Nikki are the next competitors for the tag team titles. Maybe the Sky, or what are they called? The Kabuki Warriors.
Kabuki Warriors, yeah, frig.
Maybe they're the next competitors, and then Alexa and Nikki are after that. I don't know. Regardless,
I understand where you're going there with like the women's tag team division, but as you're talking about that, let's just focus in on the fact how little craps they've given of those tag team titles since WrestleMania. It has been embarrassingly bad.
Defended once on TV.
And like, I love the Iconics. I know there's a lot of people out there who think the Iconics are absolute trash. I think they are great for what they do. I think, though, at this point, they've had to run with the tag team titles, not defending down in NXT, which was kind of the big selling point on the difference of the championship. You know, these are to be defended across all brands, and now they're not being defended at all. You need to get the titles off of them at this point, and you need to put them on somebody who is going to make the titles feel like a big deal. And for me, who that should be, as much as, like, you know, they're kind of at each other's throats right now, it should be a team of Lacey Evans and Charlotte Flair, moving away from the main title picture and going on to be that odd couple pairing who are kind of at each other's throats, but good in the ring, and give Charlotte that championship. I mean, you know, if you want to have a championship around her waist, present her as a top champion with your new tag team belts. And that way the belts will get over. Then all of a sudden you can have the feud between the Kabuki Warriors and Charlotte Flair and Lacey Evans. You can go Fire and Desire versus Charlotte Flair, Lacey Evans. That has a bigger feel to it than Iconics. Even though I love what the Iconics are doing, they got to get these titles over. Charlotte Flair going down to NXT, How many people are tuning into that NXT episode? A shit ton.
Sure.
A shit ton are tuning into that.
For sure.
So right there, WWE, that's what you need to kind of move into.
Well,
Make
even
that
if the Kabuki Warriors got it, if they go down to NXT, that would be very interesting because Asuka returning, and imagine if to take on a team of Io Shirai and Candice LeRae.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, they're
and
both...
you have that Io versus Kyrie thing.
Yeah.
That would be very
And then you're
fun.
all of a sudden throwing in like the little facts that they're both former NXT Women's Champions and they're big deal coming back to NXT. Like, I don't know why they just haven't flirted with this more. It seemed like that's what they were going to be doing big time with Boss and Hug, and then that kind of faded out.
Yeah, for other reasons, obviously, but yeah.
Speaking of kind of, sorry though, I'm going to try to transition this. Speaking of kind of fading out, WWE has seemingly faded out that dark third hour of Raw already. Did you notice that? It was gone. It was missing. Where their whole graphics changed, the dark posts, everything that was introduced with the 24/7 championship. It's gone.
Huh?
Yeah, they didn't even like, I think it was last week. Sami Zayn's electric chair was the start of WWE Raw going dark, right? Just different graphics, but that only lasted for a half hour. And then this week it wasn't even in the third hour. So did they just drop it all of a sudden? They're like, this is a bad idea. We're just going to drop it. I don't know. It was just something that I was a little confused on, why they faded that one out of TV.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too sure, honestly. Also slightly fading. This was, I think, the worst Firefly Funhouse, in my opinion.
You didn't like the Muscle Man dance? Dude, the Muscle Man dance.
I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed it. But out of what we've seen to this point, I think it was my least favorite. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the Huskus.
Huskus was funny.
It's a play on Husky Harris, for those that don't know. It's Bray Wyatt's first character in WWE, Husky Harris, when he came up with Nexus. Mm-hmm. The aspect of the Boss Man, it was a Vince McMahon with horns.
Like, oh my God, that was
there was a lot of fun elements to it, for sure. But I still... It lacked the darkness that they were going.
It was really interesting because there was that
other than
moment where it
snapped,
and it makes me wonder if there is actually some sort of like psychological thing that is going on with these segments for subliminal messaging. Because Bray Wyatt there's just those random pop-ups that are happening, you know, and it's like, what is that actually doing to our brains when we're watching it? Like, what is actually happening there? And I really hope that they continue to push this lighter Bray Wyatt, but then sink deep into darkness right away again. Like, I want to see one episode, like, 2 or 3 more times where he just dives full on into the darkness. But before he does that, he's got to be super, super light and family friendly almost, right up until he turns into this creepy, creepy clown again.
Yeah, It felt like, though, this episode, like, I felt like a lot of other episodes had some sort of a purpose for his character, whereas this episode was more of a, like, throwback to other things and just, like, fun like that. And then, again, just the let me in and the little bit of darkness. But it was, like, the Husky Harris and the Boss and the whoa. Yowie wowie. Like,
yowie wowie.
Where, like, because that's always fun for nostalgia purposes to hear Vince McMahon say "you're fired," stuff like that. But it was lacking something for me. I think I'm just ready for him to debut again. I think I'm just starting to get a little antsy with it. Maybe that's it.
It's been 7 weeks now of Firefly Funhouse, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, that's enough for me. And I still want to see those segments and stuff, but he can have those segments, whether it's a live Firefly Funhouse or the occasional promo put together of it, but still have them on the card every once in a while, right?
Part of me is thinking that WWE is maybe dragging out the Firefly Funhouse segments just to get past the Super Showdown, you know, because once you get past that show, then you can run full tilt with Bray Wyatt, I think. You don't want to have this idea that there's this big show coming up and he's not going to be on it, right? If you're going to present him as a big character.
The one thing I will say is the exciting thing is once you're past that, technically before Stomping Grounds in July or
nope, that's this month on June 23rd, I want to say.
What's their July show?
Extreme Rules, I'm pretty sure.
Right. So maybe just before Stomping Ground to just before Extreme Rules, you can definitely start building towards SummerSlam.
Yep.
And the fan in me and the fact that we're going to SummerSlam is really hoping that there's a big Bray Wyatt thing at SummerSlam.
That'd be really
that'll
cool.
Be super exciting. Yeah, I would really love to see this version of Bray at SummerSlam. So I'm hoping that we get to see some sort of significance where he's still hot and he still has a lot of momentum going into it, and they haven't killed him yet.
Yeah.
Because knowing them, it could happen quite quick. But we'll see.
Speaking of almost killing people, Brock Lesnar. We haven't really talked about him too much. He was supposed to cash in and then didn't, and now he's saying he's cashing in on Friday. I don't think he will. Do you like this?
Like logically speaking, it's like that's the wrong move, man. Just, like he's literally dead. You just need to literally put your palm on his chest, and the ref will count 1, 2, 3, and you're the new champion.
Yep.
You're the new champion. But no, like the fact that he's like, no, I don't want to do it yet. I'm like, he's dead.
He's done.
He's literally dead.
Your goal is to win the championship. That should be everybody's goal inside of WWE to win a championship.
But so from a logical standpoint, I'm like, you make sense. But like he really is just a big muscle meathead. Like, the stupidest logic.
And I mean, like
just do it now.
He doesn't have any logic with it. I mean, the fact that you win the briefcase and you didn't even know you had a year to cash in.
No,
and,
even the ref, like I feel like should have been like, has
his hands
sure?
out. Like, you
do
sure?
You want me to? It's just 1, 2, 3. Like it'll literally take 5 seconds. I'll take this, hand it to them, and then you just pin him.
And I mean, apparently Money in the Bank cash-ins don't have to be while they're on their feet anymore, so there you go. Like, because Bayley cashed in while Charlotte was down. So, I mean, Brock could have just got the easy win. Regardless, though, what I will say is it is 100% there to help try to drive up the ratings. Brock Lesnar holding on to Money in the Bank makes him, oddly enough, a bigger threat than when he held on to the championship. Oddly enough.
And also it allows him to be there every week, which is a draw for their weekly ratings because they definitely need.
And also, if he's not on the show, though, it's okay because he has a reason why he's not on the show. He's Mr. Money in the Bank. He didn't see an opportunity to cash in tonight. Why would he be there?
Yeah.
There's obviously ways that they're gonna try to keep that briefcase on him for as long as possible because they want the ratings. That's what it is.
That and also with the briefcase, I feel like they always want one or the other, the women or the men at this point, being held on to for a decent amount of time, right?
Yep. I'm going to say it right here. I'm going to say it right here, right now. Brock Lesnar cashes in on the very first episode of SmackDown Live when they move to Fox.
I think that I think that he should cash in on Kofi.
I think he should too, yeah.
I think it would be a huge pop for SmackDown. 2, it'll be a huge heel build on Brock.
Yep.
Because Kofi's such a babyface, right? I think that he should. And also it brings a big, big name to SmackDown. And you can continue your Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar feud over on SmackDown. And there's your next big, big match. Roman Reigns is your competitor against Brock Lesnar. He has to overcome that mountain again, right?
Yep. I mean, like it's back to the well for sure, and fans will reject it. But at the end of the day, it's a match that drew numbers, and it's a match that honestly was not terrible every time it was in the ring. Yes, it was very repetitive, as is every Brock Lesnar match, but it was still entertaining. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I love everything that Brock Lesnar does, but we can't deny the fact that there is something different about that man when he steps into the arena. It just feels different. It feels like a bigger match.
Or maybe you get that Brock Lesnar Finn Balor match again.
Yeah, maybe
on SmackDown, because Finn at this point, by the time that happens, maybe Finn's lost his Intercontinental Championship to Andrade or whatever, right? And now all of a sudden you're like, well, Finn deserves to move up, and here you go. Maybe he's the one who overcomes Brock, and maybe it's Demon Finn versus Brock or something fun like that, right?
Yeah. There's ways they can go.
There's a ton of things that can be huge that way.
And also, like, if you present Brock Lesnar as a legitimate, like, you know, wrestler at this point, like, where he's going to wrestle a little bit more, he can have some great matches. We forget a lot of the times how good of a worker Brock actually is. Like, when his matches against smaller opponents like AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan are phenomenal. Brock's a great in-ring worker.
We've seen 3 fantastic matches with Brock in the last 2 years, I think, or just a year and a half maybe or so. Like, fantastic matches that included Brock. AJ versus Brock at Survivor Series last year.
Yes.
Like 2017. Survivor Series 2018 was Daniel versus...
Yes, it was.
Was it Daniel versus Brock?
Daniel versus Brock, yep.
And then whatever it was, Royal Rumble maybe? Finn versus Brock?
Finn versus Brock. Yeah, that was really good as well. Yeah.
So 3 smaller opponents that have a little bit of high-flying, but still have a lot of things in their arsenal, and they're stiff hitters, all 3 of them, going up against the big muscle head beast incarnate in Brock, right? Like, so I do think those have been the 3 strongest matches in recent history for Brock, and you have that opportunity to continue on with those. A Mustafa Ali Brock Lesnar match would
and it's set up
phenomenal.
It's set up, ready to go at this very moment. Ali was screwed over of Money in the Bank by Brock Lesnar. Like, that is a match that you can have literally next week, and it would be amazing. It'd be awesome.
When's the Fox SmackDown? October?
I believe October, yeah. I think they switch over in October. So come
October, if you've built Mustafa properly, he should, or Ali now properly, he should be as big of a superstar as you need to compete against a Brock Lesnar as your champion for the world title at something, right? At one of your pay-per-views, not a big name pay-per-view, but one of them. And that'll be a fantastic match. And he doesn't need to win it, obviously. He's not going to beat Brock, I don't think. But it gives him the opportunity to show, I do deserve to be in this title picture.
Absolutely.
And people will open up to it.
And here's the thing that we also have to think. What happens when one of those smaller guys do finally beat Brock Lesnar? What's that going to do to their career? Right? Yeah. Say Ali did pull off the win. That's a guy who's going to be around for the next decade. That is a star.
Eddie Guerrero did it.
That is a star-making performance. So they have it set up.
He beat Eddie beat Brock, and it made Eddie, like, arguably at that time, in that moment, WWE's top superstar.
Yep.
In that moment, for that period of time, you're like, oh, that's the best guy in the world of wrestling. So having someone beat him is a massive deal, even when it's a Roman Reigns or a Seth Rollins, right? So imagine someone even smaller than that, like a Finn Balor or a Ali.
Like, seriously, it's sky's the limit if you build that properly. And I mean, if Brock does go over to SmackDown Live, that would be really, really good for the show. A 2-hour show, which means you're not always going to need Brock Lesnar on the show, right? You've got lots of other time for other superstars. But when he shows up, it's going to bring that legitimate feel to SmackDown Live that they're looking for. I mean, you know they're looking for it. They have always been, right? It's their number 2 show, and they want to find a way to bring it closer to Raw's ratings, without a doubt.
Speaking of being built properly, I had it in my head.
As you cut out.
But I think that the Alexa...
One sec. What was that there, buddy? Whoa. We talking to Mr. Bob Robot over here.
Relatively well.
talking to the Bob Robot over here, the Con and Bob Robot podcast. Oh, you back now? Yeah, hello? There we go. Hey. Looking good over there. We can finally see you. Sorry. So what were you saying there?
Well, I don't know. I think, is there anything else from Raw that you really want to touch on? Like, very briefly, what do you think of the Lars versus Lucha house party?
Loser house party. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Other than that, I think I'm pretty kind of touched on everything somewhat. Other than Taker and Goldberg.
I was going to say, that's the last thing that we have to talk about here. Actually, before we get into that, really quickly, that women's triple threat for the number one contender, I like the match quite a bit. That was my match.
I was going to say that was built very well. Mm-hmm. One, it was built through Moment of Bliss with Bayley. Two, it was three people that deservingly could say, I deserve to be the competitor against Bayley as Stomping Around because this is my track record.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm that good in the ring. So it was three people that you're like, yeah, okay, that
and
makes
Carmella
sense.
impressed the hell out of me in that match.
Yes, so much. And also I really enjoyed just the aspect of them being like having a number one contenders match. Like whatever, we don't see enough number one contenders matches.
We don't.
And they've started doing it a bit more in recent. Unfortunately, it's been while the ratings have been, or at least the actual product has been very poor.
Mm-hmm.
And in turn, the ratings aren't great. But yeah, that was, that I'm going to say, I'll say right now, my MVP was from that match in Alexa Bliss.
Okay.
Because I liked what she did on Raw. I liked the aspect of her relationship with Nikki growing. I liked the aspect of her getting that little bit of like embarrassment and then showing that aggressive side still, not just being embarrassed or dumb or mean or whatever, but showing that aggressive side. And then the aspect that she won, I thought it's great because it reminds you, oh yeah, she's a 5-time women's champion. She's the second most decorated women's champion or women's superstar in the current roster.
Mm-hmm.
And she is a bad motherfucker. Like, she is a badass in that ring.
Twisted Bliss onto Charlotte Flair while she had the figure eight. Oh my god. I was like, nice. There you go. And then
Carmella breaking it up right after that with literally zero time left.
Carmella's timing looked so good. Like, she had everything going for her in that match. I'm really impressed with her backstage antics too with the 24/7 championship, which, by the way, I want to kind of throw something out here. What are your thoughts on this? If WWE wanted to push the social media idea of the 24/7 championship with, like, Jinder Mahal pinning R-Truth on the golf course, right? You saw that, right? For the 24/7 championship. If they wanted to kind of push those silly things, why not create like an Instagram account that is just for the 24/7 championship and just post constantly stories, funny title changes, people out there with the title. They've got random referees coming around with guys in full gear. Like Jinder Mahal on the golf course in full gear. I cracked up, man. Like, so the idea...
I think that they should do a ref assigned to the 24/7 championship.
Oh.
Where he's always there.
You know what? Have a big 24/7 thing on the front of the referee.
Like, rather than have to bring your own ref, like, there's a ref already there with the champion just like walking around.
R-Truth
just gotta be prepared.
R-Truth would just be looking over constantly at the referee. Dude, you're giving away my hiding spot. Oh my god.
And I do like that Truth keeps losing it but keeps winning it back somehow.
Yeah.
And he's like, this title's ruining my life. Stop winning it back.
Yeah, stop going for it. And it's
stop winning it back.
R-Truth
and then they do
has
creative
killed
things
this
with it, like the pin under the ring.
Yeah. I thought that was fun as well. Like,
I thought that was fun because
R-Truth getting the Aleister Black raise in the Ricochet Cesaro match, like while he's on the table, that was funny.
That was funny, yeah.
I don't have
even the commentary team, like Corey Graves or someone was like, "He's been under there all night." It's just funny little things like that.
It's good little comedy. Yeah.
Truth is great. We've talked about him before. He is great when he actually does get to have matches, and he is great at comedy stuff, and he's doing a great job with this. And it's it's a goofy thing. It's essentially it's the PG version of the Hardcore Championship,
Yes.
which also led to some hilariously great moments, right? Remember, was it Molly Holly winning it against someone, and then I think it was Hurricane hitting her or something along those lines.
Like that.
But I remember one, like, it was either Molly Holly hit someone with a door and then pinned them, or she just won it and was running down the hallway and got hit with the door.
Okay.
Which is, like, it leads to funny little things like that.
And I mean,
like, oh, it is
Drake Maverick with that whole wanted sign for R-Truth chasing him around, not able to get his hands on him at all. Like, yeah. I mean, you know, Rockstar Spud, he was completely comedy character in TNA as well, so bringing him over and doing goofy shit like that, it's entertaining for sure.
Yeah. No, it's fun.
Quickly, I want to mention, though, the Ricochet-Cesaro match, because we actually skipped over that entirely.
Yeah.
Fine match. I thought it was a little sloppy. Like, I thought they would have, like, they've done better in the previous 2 weeks, and it just felt like things were rushed in order to get to that R-Truth part of the segment, you know, with that match. And I mean, for the talent involved, yeah, it's great Ricochet won. Don't get me wrong. It's slightly 50-50 booking, but, you know, best 2 out of 3, I guess. It goes to Ricochet. It's just the match could have been a lot better for their third and final encounter.
Well, you think it's their final, but Cesaro
I think
him after.
That's true.
Cesaro attacked him after. So it's essentially 50-50 book match, which we've seen before. And we're like, why do you do that? You're literally in one match. You're doing a 50-50 booking.
Yep. It gets nobody anywhere. Yeah. But now we can finish it off here with the epic Goldberg debut on SmackDown Live, because he has never, ever been on SmackDown for the first time ever. And boy.
I will say before we get into it, I did not like that they finished both Raw and SmackDown with this the exact same segment, just Taker on Raw and Goldberg on SmackDown. That's all I'll say. Other than that,
all right. I loved this segment. This one is the first segment in a while where just the aura around the superstars in the ring gave me goosebumps. I got goosebumps looking at Goldberg and Taker stare into each other's eyes. And I love that there was no physicality between them. That makes us want it at Super Showdown. It's going to be a smoke and mirrors match, but my God, I thought literally a week ago, I thought I had zero ambition to want to see this match. I'm like, it's two old guys. I just don't want to see it. And then I remembered what a legend is like when they step in that ring, and the reason they're a legend, the way they command the microphone, like, oh my God, Goldberg, the quick turns of the heads that he has, like the way he delivers his lines, I'm hooked. I'm ready for this match.
Yeah, he was very great in this segment. It was exciting and he looks good. There's a reason why he's a Hall of Fame, like, draws of all time, and Taker is arguably the greatest WWE product of all time.
I would say that, yeah.
I won't say the greatest wrestler of all time necessarily, but WWE product, he is like a full-fledged WWE product that
he's the best character to have ever existed in wrestling. Let's put it that way.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So to see the two of them never happen before, and to see it in this capacity, it could be a quick match. I don't think that either guy are going to be able to go 15 minutes, but even if you get 6 out of them,
yep,
I'm okay with that.
And let me ask you, does Goldberg beat Taker? I think yes.
I think so.
I think yes. I think we're going to see Goldberg maybe hang around a little bit more. I think that yes. there's a reason that this match kind of got placed just before SummerSlam. I think there's a reason for it. And yes, the reason could be Saudi money, right? And if that's the case, well, then that's the case. But if we're talking about storylines where they can move forward with this, Goldberg being around beating the dead man sets up some pretty interesting matches moving forward. And I don't know about you, but a SummerSlam match between Roman Reigns and Goldberg interests the hell out of me.
Well, I was even just thinking if you wanted to go another legend versus legend, maybe John Cena makes a return at some point.
Jeez, man.
But again, that WrestleMania, John Cena, Babe Ruth calling his shot, retiring type thing, felt like he's out for a little bit.
Yeah,
he's going to be gone for a little while. But Roman Reigns, Goldberg could be a big, again, like almost passing of the torch of dominant.
And I mean, they might end up going like, Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins for the Universal title at SummerSlam. Maybe. They might do that, but if Roman's not in that program against Seth, that's a place I would like to see him, and that would be like a spotlight match again that he hasn't really truly had since coming back. Yeah, he's had the McIntyre thing, and yeah, he's got the Shane O'Mac thing, but he just kind of feels like he's there right now, and he's not the Roman Reigns from before, and he's not having all this momentum that he should have.
He's not the Roman Reigns that fought Brock Lesnar. He's not the Roman Reigns that fought Undertaker. He's not even.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's getting speared by Shane O'Mac on a weekly basis. Don't get me wrong, sure there's
contract run out.
Maybe he's going to AEW, yeah. But yeah, man, I would like to see what happens with Goldberg there. I think his possibility of beating The Undertaker at Super Showdown is very high. I have a tough time believing Goldberg comes back just to lose to the Dead Man. And it very well might be some sort of weird smoking match, double count out or double disqualification. You know what I mean? Like they might protect both stars. But
yeah,
it could be really, really good. And after this Friday, we're going to find out what the future of the WWE looks like.
The one other match we didn't really touch on, New Day versus KO and Sami Zayn. It was a good match.
It was a fine match. It was clearly there just for Kofi Kingston to win. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are doing nothing at the pay-per-view. Builds them up a little bit more for Dolph Ziggler. And I love the super kick from Dolph Ziggler to Kofi and Xavier at the end of that. It was completely out of nowhere, and it did a good job building towards their match.
Yeah, it wasn't a great week of wrestling, but it wasn't atrociously bad either.
I would agree with that.
It was just kind of there. There was good things.
Mm-hmm.
NXT TakeOver was great. TakeOver 25. Double or Nothing, which we never really got the chance to talk on the last time, but we did the show. That was a great card. Raw lacking a little bit, but there was okay moments.
SmackDown was the better show of the two.
A little bit better, but still some moments lacking, some moments very good. My match of the week goes to NXT TakeOver 25's Velveteen Dream versus Tyler Breeze. Yours?
I'm going to give it to the SmackDown one because I just don't want to give it to the NXT TakeOver, even though they all 5 matches topped whatever there was this week, but I really did enjoy the SmackDown triple threat between the women. That'd be my MVP.
100%.
Oh, and my MVP, yeah, you go first.
Alexa Bliss, my girl. She's single. She's ready to mingle with me. I'm out here, Alexa. I'm ready for you, Lexi.
I'm going to give it to R-Truth. How about that? Because R-Truth really entertained me this week.
That's fair.
Yep, I enjoyed his antics. All right, man, where can they follow you on Twitter?
It's right there. And if you're not watching the video, because I forgot that some of it can just be audio, or maybe you can't read, or you can't see, or something along those lines. It's Bob's Wrasslin, BOBSRASSLIN, Bob's Wrasslin, BOBSRASSLIN.
That is like the greatest Twitter plug I think that anybody could ever come up with. I love it. You can follow me on Twitter at Conman167. Nothing fancy for you there. You can follow us on Instagram. I believe we both have those as well. You still got Bob's Wrasslin, I believe.
Yep. Same one, yeah.
And Conman167 WWE. I've been trying to use the Instagram a little bit more recently with the stories to promote the shows. So make sure you follow us over there, guys. And I think that's going to pretty much do it for us here. Again,
quick
reminder.
Question.
Oh yeah.
Does my hair I cut the sides? I feel like I kind of have a little Bray Wyatt-esque.
Ooh, a little bit.
Style right now.
A little bit. You're not too far off from Prince Pretty Tyler Breeze either. He's got that little look going on, just not as long at the back.
Fair.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite as. Oh, he's got a good beard.
He's got a little bit of a beard, yeah. Just a reminder, though, to everybody, I am not able to stream Super Showdown, this entire show that we have been talking about here today. I know. Oh, I'm a terrible human. But I mean, by the time the podcast goes up, Super Showdown will have already happened. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. And
so
thank
none
you.
of this is relevant.
None of it at all. Nope, none of it. Maybe we got to upload the podcast on a different day. I don't know. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us here today, though. Thank you so much for watching or listening wherever you're from. Have a good day. I've been Con.
And I've been Bob.
And that was the Con and Bob Podcast.